Last night, more. Um, how do you characterize this? Is it another police riot, another National Guard? What would have happened if there were many people in the community in Ferguson a couple of days ago, that one night, and actually the following day, when there was not a military presence basically in Ferguson. There were people who were lining up in front of local businesses to defend them. And it seems like, to me anyway, it seems that when the police come in, when the National Guard comes in a hyper-military state, it eliminates the ability of those people of good faith who want to essentially police their own community, in the best sense of the word police. And every morning you see the footage of of people coming out and cleaning up the streets. Local African-American citizens who live in Ferguson cleaning up the streets and trying to put their community back together. How different would this be if the Ferguson Police Department was 70% black like Ferguson is? How different would this be if the prosecutor's off? And how do we get there? If that's desirable. Maybe that's not even the desirable outcome. I don't know. Dawn in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Hey, Dawn, you had some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for you. And normally I do agree with a lot of the statements that you do make, but why are the people of the town not held responsible for A, their behaviors, and B, as you say all the time, vote and get into government? This is not a new issue in the United States. Things have erupted like this for a while, but how did the disparity between the races happen in this particular community? Was the community not on board?
Well, first of all, historically, it happened by law. There were laws in the United States up until the 1970s frankly most communities in the United States that said that people of color could not live in certain places. There were policies that were enforced by banks. This was called redlining. It had to be outlawed. It was outlawed during the Carter administration. This was in the 70s. There were policies the banks had that they would not loan to people of color, even if those people were eligible, even if they met all the criteria, even if they had the GI Bill behind them. They would not loan to them. So we got there. With regard to why isn't the Ferguson, why haven't more African Americans voted in Ferguson to vote in black representation for themselves? The area has elections not in November like everybody else does. If you're a person who is only marginally paying attention to the news, which is true of the vast majority of Americans, white and black, if you're only marginally paying attention to the news and your election is not being held on the second Tuesday in November like all other elections are, but instead, or first Tuesday in November, whatever it is, but instead is being held on the second Tuesday in April, which is how Ferguson does it. And then there's virtually no coverage of it because there's not a local, African American media of any consequence. Instead, what you've got is the St. Louis TV stations, which are catering to a largely white audience, which is where the money is, which is what the advertisers want. Then the African American community is not even hearing that there's an election going on. And so, surprise, surprise, only 13% of them show up to vote.
Isn't that normally done under a grassroots initiative?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I thought was wonderful was that there was a voter registration table. There's a group that's set up a voter registration table in downtown Ferguson, and they're trying to get everybody registered to vote. And they're going to make sure that people know when that next election comes in April for the city council.
Right.
But, it could be all that could be fixed very easily if Ferguson simply had its elections the same time the rest of the state and federal elections are happening in November. You'd have a large turnout.
Sure. But again, this is 2014.
Right.
These things have been going on for a long time since, the laws were changed in the 70s. And the community itself has not stepped up. My thought is, why then if they have not stepped up, if they have not enacted laws, such as what has happened in Florida, why are they behaving the way they're behaving?
They being who?
Well, the rioters, the looters.
Oh, well, okay. In answer to your initial question, why do we not hold the rioters and looters accountable? We did. 13 of them were arrested last night.
13?
Yeah, I believe that's the number. But the point is that, people who are rioting and looting should be arrested. I don't think anybody disagrees with that, and including the people of Ferguson. It's anyhow, Dawn, thank you for your call.